Well, if all the projected vaccines are supplied, we estimate we should have covered over 45% of the population by the end of the year. That assertion was made by the Minister of Health, Osagi Ehanire, at the Presidential Task Force briefing on COVID-19. This is just as 13 COVID-19 variants known as B117 have been detected in the country. The report. Well, joining me, we'll bring that report later on. Joining me is public health specialist, Dr. Tuyi Bawandu, a physician and research fellow. Also joining us is physician and research fellow in telemedicine, Dr. Ajoko Amadiobi. He joins us via Skype. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning.
All right, I'll start with you, Dr. Ajoko. The government is looking at 45% of the population being vaccinated, perhaps by the end of the year. It's targeting herd immunity. And the question on the lips of many is how this is going to help flatten the curve when we are seeing the new variants springing up across the country.
Yes, providing immunization is going to be a very challenging problem on various fronts, really. Usually with vaccination, you have already done all the work before you understand how the vaccine works and its effects. This COVID-19 has been something that is ongoing, but concurrently with the research on how to vaccinate. At the moment, the best example of what vaccination will do on a large scale is actually coming out of Israel, and that's very promising. But these vaccines that are available at the moment are actually a little bit more difficult to transport, so the logistics will be quite challenging. They have to be stored at very low temperatures with very specialized equipment, unlike previous ones. So there's multivariate challenges that we would face in trying to implement that in Nigeria. 45% of the population is very laudable, but it'd be very, very challenging to achieve it in Nigeria. Even at 45%, we're not going to achieve herd immunity. In many diseases, we are looking at 70% of the population and above. Nobody understands the actual dynamics of this particular disease, so it's an ongoing process. But it is, of course, a very laudable idea to be able to do that. But the logistics would be something, of course, recently we had problems with the ability to store the Pfizer vaccine. So these would be challenges that we'll need to face to see whether we'll be able to implement it.
All right. Although the government has said that it is going to use the cold chain it used for fighting polio for storage when it comes to its receiving the vaccine. But let's bring the conversation to the studio where we have Dr. Tuyi Bawandu. I wonder if you're on the same position with Dr. Ajoko, talking about the fact that achieving the 45% of the population by the end of the year will be a Herculean task with all of the challenges he ruled out.
Let us be realistic. You're not going to get 45% of Nigeria population vaccinated at the end of this year. You won't get that.
Why?
Here's why. One, the first thing challenge to vaccination is availability of vaccines. Okay, right now, as of February 5th, we have 100 million vaccines deployed worldwide. Majority of them are deployed in the developed world.
That's vaccine nationalism.
Yeah, you see this, we've entered an era of vaccine diplomacy. That is what we're facing now. And in fact, AstraZeneca told Africa clearly, to WHO, that, listen, you want our vaccine, go to India, go to Serum Institute of India to get vaccine for Africa. Now, the Serum Institute of India had only supplied 1 million doses to South Africa. As of now, our own is just a promissory note. Because why? If you put a work process in place, work program, that can hasten the development of vaccine, and you've dropped $2.5 billion like US did. You said, okay, give me the vaccine I paid for. Nigeria was not involved. Nigeria is not even developing a homegrown vaccine. There was one that was developed around the other time that was 90% effective against COVID-19, but we didn't pay attention. We didn't even support it with funds. Now we're running around trying to look for vaccine from Serum Institute. As it is now, the only thing where Nigeria can get vaccine is probably run to China, where they are using their own vaccines to push their own initiative.
But we hear reports coming out say that the BUA has procured about 1 million doses of AstraZeneca COVID vaccines for Nigeria through the AFEXIM Bank program in partnership with the private sector coalition, that's CACOVID. But then we see...
Heartwarming.
All right.
Now, heartwarming. You see, now, we've always discussed here on this studio that you have vaccine, you have vaccination. Now, even let's say you are trying to resolve the supply of the vaccine, because now, the thing is that the polio platform you want to put this vaccination on cannot work for this type of vaccine.
Right.
Now, you stop polio at 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. You are storing this vaccine at minus 70 in some cases. The AstraZeneca may be a bit better, maybe that one might be like minus 20. But still a Herculean task. Nigeria, 200 million population, as 930 square kilometer, diverse kilometer, 1 nurse per 1,000 patients. Do you understand? 1 nurse per 1,000. Not to talk of other people. Now, the huge logistic challenge, the storage challenge, because it is even better not to commence vaccination than to procure the vaccine and get it wasted. We spend $2 billion to vaccinate for polio over 24 years. 24 years. That's a vaccine that is stored within 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. $2 billion, 24 years before we can achieve that. This vaccine is not like polio. Let's get this straight. If you really want to get to that figure we're talking about, we need to move the hand of the clock in terms of our preparation, in terms of who is going to be involved. Because, you see, you need logistic people. I mean, really, you need logistic people. How many people can deliver that logistic at that temperature in Nigeria? This is not parcel that you just go to, where you call?
And you need skilled labor to do the vaccination.
It's not that parcel you just go to motor park and say, help me drop at Owerri. Let's get serious, honestly.
All right, let's get Dr. Ajoku's reaction to what Dr. Tuyi just said. Right.
Yes, I agree that there are quite a lot of challenges, but just a minor point of correction. The AstraZeneca vaccine actually can be stored using the regular cold chain storage system we have in Nigeria. It's a bit different from the AstraZeneca and the Moderna vaccines, which are mRNA vaccines that you require to store at very low temperatures. So the one coming from AstraZeneca is Oxford vaccine is really stored at regular vaccine temperature, so it is doable. But apart from that, really, the logistics of being able to get the number of vaccines that we need, this is a problem. There's a big struggle amongst nations. As you can see, it caused a big brouhaha between the EU and the UK in terms of supplying these vaccines. They are not available, basically. So there are a lot of challenges. So we really need to focus on other aspects of trying to ameliorate this disease very aggressively. I agree that we're not really going to be able to attain even 45%, and even attaining 45% will probably not be able to solve our problems of disease transmission and the dynamics of the disease itself.
I want to take you up on something you said. You said we need to focus aggressively on some other areas. What areas are you talking about?
Well, the COVID is a pandemic. It's a public health problem. So creating awareness, focusing on aspects like social distancing, I see that that's very challenging in Nigeria. People still go out to parties. People are still holding weddings. Creating awareness is really a big focus of what we can do, and preventive measures would really be the focus of what we can achieve. There are things that you can also use. Have a proper protocol on how to handle even those who have the disease, what they should be doing. It's not everybody that needs to go to hospital if you have COVID. What you can do at home, or how you can isolate. These are things that are doable with a very aggressive
But one would
outreach.
say that the government has been laying emphasis on all of these non-clinical protocols, talking about hand washing, as social distancing. These are issues the government has always been speaking about.
Yeah, but the results in the field do not support that. It has been effective. It has gone down to the grassroots. Like I said, people are still going on with their lives. People are still doing exactly what they are doing. In Europe here, when they say there's a lockdown, there is a lockdown. You don't see people moving around. You don't see parties. You don't see a lot of things happening as they're happening in Nigeria. It hasn't affected all the efforts so far. Hasn't affected the trajectory of the disease significantly. So we really need to, if your eggs break, you make omelette, as they say. So we need to focus on what is really achievable. And those are really achievable things if we handle them aggressively.
Right.
Vaccine may not necessarily be, if we have targeted vaccination with limited supply, that could be useful. For example, amongst healthcare providers, which have a high attrition rate in this disease, that might be useful. But trying to do a mass vaccination of the whole Nigerian population is not really very feasible.
All right, we need to bring the conversation to the studio now. Dr. Tuyi, he's saying we should focus more on some other issues that he has pointed out. And we're wondering, what might be the missing link? Why is the government not achieving that result? Because, like he said, the government is saying, talking about ensuring that the non-clinical protocols are observed in terms of social distancing and all, but it's not achieving that result. What is the missing link?
Before I answer that question, let me just add this. Now, you're seeing this vaccine,
right?
Okay, being deployed. We're seeing mutant strains of this virus coming up. South Africa, Ireland or UK, and Brazil.
Yeah.
We're seeing mutant strains. We don't know how well these vaccines can protect against those mutant strains. Okay. Then secondly, most of these vaccines are double doses. If you do one and you miss one, you are creating chance for a mutant strain of the virus to come up. Then that further points to the fact that we have to focus on our non-pharmaceutical. In fact, for me, I've been arguing this. If there's anything we need to spend extra fund on, it has to be on those non-pharmaceutical intervention. And of course, what has happened was this. Every time, the people tend to lose trust, in our campaign against COVID-19. And we are seeing discordant tunes from government. This governor says it's not working. The other one says it's working.
So that is affecting...
It's affecting the perception. Because if you are at the level of government, you are a governor, you are serious.
The citizen expects you know better.
You are telling us that, listen, there's no COVID in Nigeria. What do you expect another citizen running around to do? If you're a religious leader and you have those kind of control over your congregation and you have influence, huge influence, and you are now, pushing conspiracy theories, you are demonstrating, giving lectures and saying that there's 666, 999, 111 that is happening somewhere, then how do you expect those people to believe? So what has happened was that at the point of this discussion, government had lost the direction of the communication. And they have to go and work on that. They have to go down. They have to go down to the basic unit of the people living together to educate. Okay, for instance, you have to ask the question, how do I communicate this non-pharmaceutical intervention to, say, the church leaders, in such a way that they will be able to tell this? You have to really have that kind of, JoJo experience. If you don't do that, well, you have to really be wondering what vaccine can do, what vaccine cannot do. And of course, tell you what, even the vaccine itself, we're still having, it's a process, an ongoing process.
Right, which is something that I want to go to, talking about the issue with the AstraZeneca that South Africa, had to put on hold, the rollout. It had to put on hold the rollout because it said that it brought about it showed disappointing result after it was administered on about 2,000 persons. And the question now is, should Nigeria still go ahead with the purchase of this AstraZeneca vaccines, Dr. Ajoku?
Yeah, well, it depends very much on the strain of the virus that we have in Nigeria. The COVID-19 is a bit like the flu virus. because it mutates very quickly and you have different strains, which is why you have to be vaccinated every year. So you have to be very agile with how you approach it. So we need to know which strain is prevalent in Nigeria at the moment to be able to decide what vaccines to use. If the one we have that is prevalent in Nigeria at the moment is the South African version, we will have to rethink purchasing the AstraZeneca vaccines. So it's really a very challenging logistical problem. We don't have the vaccine yet, and we don't actually know which strains are prevalent in Nigeria, which ones will be affected by the virus. So going ahead and purchasing it now is a very tricky question. What most nations would do is probably to go ahead and purchase it and then assess which ones are prevalent, which ones will be responding to the vaccine, and then decide on that. But with this situation in Nigeria, I'm not sure we have the funds to be able to purchase these vaccines willy-nilly. For example, in the UK now, they bought up all the vaccines that are available. But now, so they will only use the strains that they know will be the vaccine they know will be responding to the viruses, the strains that they have around. So I don't know. It's a difficult one to take. And I'm sure the policymakers in Nigeria would really be scratching their heads to be able to decide on that. But ideally, what would be done would be just to go ahead and buy it and then make the decision to deploy it afterwards.
Right. Dr. Tuyi, does Nigeria have the funds to buy and see how it works because we are seeing the results in South Africa that they had to put it on hold, administering it. And that is what we are looking forward to receiving by the end of February. Should we still go ahead?
Critically, other factors that is going to really be a huge issue in deploying the vaccine will be the rate of what I call vaccine hesitancy and vaccine refusal. Now, as much as 23% of USA people actually vaccine hesitant, they don't want the vaccine, which is as high as 50% in France. Okay, now, the dynamic of the communication should just be able to deal with the issue of vaccine hesitancy. But again, if you're seeing those kind of figure coming from South Africa, it's going to further drive up the figure of the vaccine hesitant people
in Nigeria.
In Nigeria and refusal. Okay? Now, it's a complex thing. Then first and foremost, we're actually having a huge economic challenge.
Right.
We're looking up to COVAX. More than 150 nations pulled together. WHO is trying to deliver 2 billion doses of vaccines for 150, which means for more than 60% of the world population people. So that will not even be sufficient. So they're looking for an additional pledge of $6 billion to be able to drive that. The money is not forthcoming. Now, even if we have the money, which we don't have, so how do we now mobilize and move from vaccine to the vaccination? So we don't have the money. That's fact. The one provided by WHO is not sufficient. The vaccines available are not approved, that easily available, that they're using for vaccine diplomacy, are not easily available, have not been approved by WHO. I'm talking about the Russia own,
yes,
and the Sinopharm own. That's from China. Those are the two that were being, that
so
can be cheaper. So
it's very important that we begin to look inwards to address
exactly.
this.
So if we had developed a vaccine that showed a potential, even at the initial stage of 90% against the virus, there's a genomic lab somewhere in Osun State that had done this. Why don't we put support? All this money we're aggregating. Why don't we say, okay, listen, guy, come, what do you need? You put a lot of people together, both from NAFDAC people, the scientists, everybody, you pull them, logistic people, you pull them together and say, listen, how can we fasten these things so that we know our own strain and be able to develop how to deploy vaccine to counter our own strain.
All right. We'll have to leave the conversation here now. Thank you so much, Public Health Specialist Dr. Tuyi Baondu, as well as Physician and Research Fellow in Telemedicine, Dr. Ajoko Amadiobi. Thank you for joining us on TVC Bracket.
Thank you.
Thank you.